She pushed her mother-in-law off a moving train because years of resentment, betrayal, and hidden truths had finally reached their boiling point. But the path that led to that shocking moment was not one of simple hatred, rather a labyrinth of love, duty, secrets, and tragedy. It began in the bustling town of Lahore, where Aisha, a 27-year-old woman of quiet grace but burning inner turmoil, had been married to Hamza, the ambitious yet emotionally distant son of a stern matriarch named Razia, whose iron will ruled over her household with suffocating authority. And while Aisha tried to adjust in her new home, her heart yearned for the warmth of acceptance, yet all she found was criticism, cold eyes, and cruel whispers that she was never good enough, never obedient enough, never worthy of the family name. Razia, once a woman who had raised 3 children in hardship after her husband's sudden death, had grown bitter with time, clinging to control as if it were the only anchor in her lonely life. And Hamza, caught between his wife and his mother, chose silence, retreating into his work as a civil engineer and leaving Aisha stranded in a home that felt more like a cage than a sanctuary, where every meal turned into an interrogation, every visit from relatives into a stage for public humiliation, and every small mistake into a storm of insults. Aisha endured for years, swallowing her pain, smiling in front of outsiders. But within her the fire grew, stoked further when she discovered Razia's manipulation her mother-in-law had intercepted. Letters Aisha wrote to her widowed father, keeping them hidden to sever her from her only remaining parent. And when Aisha confronted Hamza, he dismissed her tears as paranoia, deepening her loneliness. Fate twisted darker when Aisha, after years of trying, finally conceived a child, a tiny spark of hope, only for Razia's cruelty to intensify during pregnancy, forcing her into exhausting chores, taunting her weakness, whispering that she was unfit to be a mother, until one dreadful night when Aisha, heavily pregnant, slipped on a wet floor that Razia had deliberately left uncleaned, leading to a devastating miscarriage that shattered her spirit and buried all remnants of forgiveness. Grief transformed into simmering rage, and in the silence of her nights, Aisha began imagining revenge, yet her conscience fought, torn between her upbringing and the monstrous urge that Razia's cruelty had planted within her. Hamza remained blind, too devoted to his mother's words to see his wife suffering, and the gap between husband and wife widened into an unbridgeable chasm. The turning point came one evening when Aisha discovered old letters in Razia's locked trunk. While cleaning the letters her father had written back to her, filled with love, longing, and desperate attempts to contact her, letters Razia had, hidden for years, some even unopened, and one in particular revealed that her father had fallen gravely ill, begging to see her one last time. But by the time Aisha read it, it was years too late. He had died alone, believing his daughter had abandoned him. And in that moment, something inside her snapped, grief curdling into hatred, her tears transforming into a vow of vengeance that whispered relentlessly in her mind. The opportunity came months later when Hamza, pressured by work, suggested that Aisha accompany Razia on a train journey to Karachi to attend a wedding. On behalf of the family, thinking perhaps the trip might mend their relationship, but little did he know that it would become the journey of no return. The train rattled through the countryside, the rhythmic clatter of iron wheels echoing like a heartbeat of fate. And as Aisha sat across from Razia in their compartment, the old woman's sharp tongue lashed her with taunts about her infertility, her uselessness, her unworthiness, every word digging like knives into wounds that had never healed, until Aisha's mind, already a battlefield of memories and suppressed rage, began to tremble on the edge of control. Night fell, the carriage dimmed, passengers lulled to sleep. the wind howling through small cracks in the windows, and Aisha stared at Razia's silhouette in the shadows, hearing again the screams of her unborn child, the silence of her father's grave, the years of humiliation echoing like ghosts around her, and her hands trembled. Her heart thundered, but her mind whispered this was the moment. When the train slowed to curve along a bridge, Aisha rose silently, approached Razia, and with a sudden, shocking surge of strength fueled by years of agony, she shoved her mother-in-law towards the door, Razia's eyes widening in horror, her shrill cry tearing through the night as she tumbled out into the darkness, the rushing wind swallowing her scream until it was gone, and silence returned. Broken only by the rumble of steel wheels, Aisha sat back down, her chest heaving, hands shaking, tears streaming, realizing what she had done not only an act of vengeance, but also liberation. Though drenched in irreversible guilt, yet fate was cruel, for the incident could not remain hidden. The train stopped. The authorities questioned passengers, and suspicion quickly circled toward Aisha, whose silence and trembling demeanor betrayed her, and soon she found herself in the cold grip of law, accused of murder. Hamza, upon hearing the news, was torn apart, his mother gone, his wife in prison, his world shattered, and for the first time he saw the consequences of his silence, realizing the lethal cruelty his wife had endured. But the law showed no mercy, sentencing Aisha 2 years in prison. However, within those iron bars, Aisha found strange peace. Her conscience no longer weighed down by Razia's torment. Though haunted by nightmares of that fateful night, time passed, and whispers spread among the family, some condemning Aisha as a murderer, others secretly sympathizing with her as a victim of relentless abuse. And her story became a tragic tale of how unchecked cruelty can turn even the most tender heart into a vessel of vengeance. When Hamza visited years later, older, broken, he wept at her feet, confessing his blindness and begging forgiveness. But Aisha, hardened by years and sorrow, simply looked at him with hollow eyes, neither forgiving nor condemning, only whispering, "The train has already left, Hamza," a haunting metaphor that their lives had crossed a point of no return. And with that, she turned away, leaving him with the echoes of his own regret. And thus the story closed like a circle of fate, where love had once tried to bloom, but was strangled by cruelty, where vengeance became the bitter fruit of pain, and where a single shove on a moving train became not just an act of violence, but the culmination of years of grief, injustice, and silent screams, reminding all who hear it that sometimes the most dangerous storms are not the ones outside, but the ones that rage quietly inside a broken heart until they finally burst with catastrophic force.